Hello, my name is Brandon Crawford. I did my science fair experiment on do environmental conditions affect latent fingerprints. For my project, my scientific question was, will differing weather conditions such as in a deep freeze, fire, in neutral grounds, in rain, in desert conditions, will those have different effects on a latent fingerprint? Will they have different effects on how one must lift them? My hypothesis was if I leave an item with a latent print in different environmental conditions, then the process of lifting the fingerprint and the fingerprint clarity itself will change based on the climate it was left in. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can see. The reason I chose to do this experiment was because my grandfather was a Pennsylvania state trooper for 27 years, and my mom was a parole officer for about 5 years. So I've always had a deep fascination with the way the penal system works and how criminals are convicted. Now, something really interesting about this is through the 100 years of fingerprint evidence being admissible, it's been a damning piece of evidence, something that could put you away if it's found on a murder scene. If your fingerprint is, say, found on a knife that is a murder weapon, then you're probably going to be the prime suspect. Another purpose for this was I just wanted to test out if a fingerprint is lifted in, say, Alaska in freezing temperatures, would that differ from a print lifted in, say, Arizona that's lifted in 100-degree weather? I thought that'd be something interesting. I don't know if you guys can see this. So my method is I will be testing how different environmental conditions affect the quality of latent fingerprints. I will compare my lifted prints to an inked print on a piece of paper, which will serve as my control. I will be grading the effectiveness of each print based on 4 things. Quality out of the total 15 prints I took, short term, which I'll explain later, long term, which I'll explain later, and visibility out of 15. Oops, sorry, drifted off. Just looking at my chart, sorry about that. So for my safety precautions, I didn't really deal with any dangerous chemicals or anything like that, but I was around ovens, and for one of my experiments, I did hold a lighter under something for a good 3 minutes. So when I'm using the oven, or when I use the oven, or when I use the lighter, I was always very careful and had gloves on, heating gloves. Through the entire experiment itself, I wore latex gloves. That way I never contaminated any of the prints. So the materials needed for this was 1 glass bottle with a flat side, which is this right here. That could serve as a window, as a bottle like that, a cup, anything that's glass that could be found at a crime scene. A plastic bottle with it was a flat side to begin with, but during one of the experiments, and you can see there the fire damage, it kind of did that. It used to be flat, but that could use as the grip of a handgun, the grip of a knife, a bottle like that, anything that's plastic. I also needed 1 sheet of metal, which I use this. Again, this could be used as the blade of a knife, a plate, the slide of a rifle, the slide of a gun, any gun, a drawer, a doorknob, anything. I also needed lycopodium powder, which is this very fine black powder, which is used to dust these fingerprints. I needed latex gloves, which I don't have on me. I needed a brush, which is this, which is just a very fine brush. I needed tape to lift the gloves. We needed an oven, of course. We needed a lighter. Sorry. We needed to use a deep freezer to, we needed sand, and we needed paper cards. We needed 15 of those. The reason we needed the oven, this one's not explanatory. We did it in a desert environment. So we did it, we would bake it at 100 degrees for an hour. We did everything for an hour. We left it in the rain for an hour. We left it in the freezer for an hour. Everything except under the fire, because that would become dangerous to me. So after doing that, we brushed some sand on top of it, and it had a pretty impactful thing on the fingerprints. Alright, so I'd like to go into detail about this guy right here. This is, hold on. This is a man named Richard Ramirez. He had many known aliases, but his most famous was the Night Stalker. Richard Ramirez was born February 29th, 1960 in El Paso, Texas. From June 1984 through August 1985, he killed 13 and went on a raping spree in California. During his killing spree, he used a wide variety of weapons, such as handguns, knives, tire irons, hammers, and other blunt force objects. He would force his way into the victim's house late at night and do the despicable things he did. So the way he was caught was a witness managed to see the car Richard Ramirez got in when he left the crime scene, and the witness managed to lead law enforcement to the car. And in that car, they found a partial fingerprint. That partial fingerprint would be a key piece of evidence in the trial that was led against him. So I just wanted to mention this guy because he was one of the worst serial killers probably in history. He would probably be up there with Manson or Ted Bundy, I would say. But he was just a despicable guy, and I think it's really cool how he got caught with all fingerprint evidence. Alright. So this is my chart. I know it's kind of hard to read. I'm sorry about this. I'll try flipping it. So like I told you before, I matched it up to 4 things in the end. Quality, short-term, long-term, visibility. There was one short-term thing on my fingerprint. Sorry, I don't know the proper word for it. It slipped my mind. But I'll try and show you the fingerprint right now. This was the base fingerprint right here. I'm trying to get it balanced. You probably can't see that too good. I'll try and submit a photo of it, and hopefully the teacher will pass on to the judges, but I had one short-term effect on a fingerprint. It's a bit covered in ink. I did, do those little things, but about right here on my finger, I have a scar. Or it might not be a permanent scar, but it's a little cut right there. And it's only noticeable if you look keenly at the fingerprint. So that was the one short-term thing I matched up to, because that could be used. It's very identifiable, but only in short term. So if, say, a fingerprint was lifted off a crime scene that's 2 days old, a short-term fingerprint would be something you would look for, or a short-term identifiable feature. However, if you're looking at a crime scene that's, say, 2 years old, then you're probably not, the fingerprint would have changed by then. So there was one short term I matched up to and 3 long term. The 3 long term, I know you can't see, but you have whorls, loops, and arches in your fingerprint. I have 2 arches, and I matched no, one arch, one whorl, and a bunch of little ridges. So I matched them up, and if I could see those, I would give the 3 things, because those are what you would look for. So after completing my research, I found that the conditions that prints are lifted in play a major part in the clarity of the print. The clarity is important because if you can't see the print, then it makes identifying the print, who the print belongs to, much more difficult. The major thing I looked for were the 3 long-term characteristics and the 1 short-term characteristics. Like I said, the long-term characteristics were whorls, arches, and loops. Yeah, sorry if I said ridges, I got mixed up. So my fingerprint contained 1 arch, 1 loop, and many arches, 1 loop, and 1 whorl. My writing was messed up, sorry about that. And the 1 short-term characteristic was the scar near the top loop on the right side of the print. So in conclusion, my project made a clear statement that environmental conditions do in fact impact lane prints. I showed that certain conditions will affect prints differently than others. An example of this I found out is that if metal or glass is exposed to fire, it tends to give a very clear print without the need of lycopodium powder. Like the ash that goes on that covers the object, you just dust that away. You don't need any lycopodium powder. I'll actually show you that fingerprint right now. So this was the metal in fire. This is without any lycopodium powder. As you can see, hold on, let me get a pencil. You can see right here is one long-term feature. Right here is another, and you can see a whole bunch of whorls. So, I mean not whorls, arches. This is another one. This was the glass bottle in the fire. As you can see, they're just extraordinarily clear without any lycopodium powder. However, when it's exposed to plastic, it just melts it. Hold on. So for the next year's project, I would actually like to improve on this. While doing all my research, I found out that the thing that affects fingerprints most is time. So I would like to actually start my project like right now and see what the difference a year will make, what the difference 6 months will make. I think I could really improve on this, and I think I could teach a whole bunch of people the effects of this stuff. And I think this is something a lot of people should know. Now, I still have time left, so I'm going to show you how I dust for fingerprints. I'm going to do it on the metal, and we're going to dust for a print. I figured this is something I would show the judges if I were there. So let me go grab a towel to get my fingers. Well, you can see me, but fingerprints all wiped out. Go away, son. Come on. Skadoodle, get out of here. Sorry, my dog is here. I'll set that down. As you can see, metal right there is clear, no fingerprints. So I'm going to set up an area because that lycopodium powder spreads like crazy. It's real unfortunate that we couldn't do this in person. I was really looking forward to this year, but I can still improve on people's knowledge, I hope. So the 3 things you need is a brush, lycopodium powder, and tape. So I'm I'm going to carefully lift this up, not contaminate the print. Put the print down. Alright, now that's put down. This will be neutral environment because it's in warm temperatures. Alright, you see that? The dust already goes everywhere. So you just dip it barely in the cap. Barely. And then you're gonna, I don't know if you can see, I have my stuff there. You dip it in there. It's on there. That's where the lane fingerprint should be, so. There you go, as you can see, it's highlighted. So then, I'm gonna put you guys down. You get a piece of clear tape, and without touching much of the tape, because that contaminates a print without a doubt, you remove a piece, but the tape's being a bit stubborn now. I'm gonna lift it with tape. I can't do it when I'm holding it. Gonna place it down so it's even. I have a card next to me. Alright, so then you lift it and you place it down on the card. Place it down. There we go. And as you can see, the print's gone. You can see where the lycopodium powder was. You can see where it's missing stuff. And that's the print we just lifted. And from observing this, you can see you can pretty much see everything. You can see the scar if you can't. Concentrate here. That right there, that tiny little cut, that is the short term. This is 1 long term, 2 long term, 3 long term. You can see almost all of them. Now, I just remembered I forgot to show my graph and all the proof, so I'll explain it. So this is the ranking of quality and visibility from, top is quality and the very bottom is the visibility. So they're pretty even with each other. Visibility and quality, the only difference is visibility is how dark the print is. The short term you can see on all these. So GB means glass bottle, PB means plastic bottle, and M means metal. N means neutral, DF means deep freeze, R means rain, D means desert environment, and F means fire. And that's my graph. I know this is a bit of a long video, but I hope I taught you guys something. Stay safe during this pandemic. Have a good one.